Hey, I'm Toussaint Morrison, and this is a new series called Rethink, and it's powered by Patreon. You can go to the link below to support more videos like this and hopefully suggest new topics and subjects that you would like us to talk about in these videos and invite others to rethink. Today, we're going to rethink how black football players are treated. And we're not talking about the American ones. We're talking about the ones in the rest of the world. Recently in the 2020 Euro Cup, England faced Italy in the finals. And what happened in the finals was it came down to penalty kicks. They were tied up, it came to penalty kicks. And England, 3 of their players missed their penalty kicks, resulting in the English national football team losing. Now those 3 players, it's important to point out, were black: Rashford, Saka, and Sancho. Now, it's important to point out that after these 3 football players, these black football players for the English national team, missed their penalty kicks, a social media firm called Newship found that 12 posts that were made online received 4.6 million likes, 100,000 comments, and those posts came from major news networks such as the BBC News and Sky Sports. The important thing to note is that the body of the comments and content that were put out about these 3 black football players went above and beyond just the sport of football. It went into their obvious identity, their racial identity. And a lot of it was racial harassment, racism, extreme death threats that were made towards the 3 players, and a lot of it honed in on the fact that they're black. The important thing to point out is that the English national football team is awful when it comes to shootouts, when it comes to penalties. They are 3-7 when it comes to shootouts in major national competition. They have lost twice to Germany, to Portugal, and to Italy, and they've lost once to Argentina. They've beaten Colombia, Spain, and Switzerland, and that makes them 3-7. Another thing to point out is that there are more white players on the English national team that have missed penalties than black football players. And let's point them out right now. Pierce and Waddle, both white players, missed their penalties in the 1990 World Cup, which resulted in a loss. Gareth Southgate missed his penalty kick, which resulted in a loss in the Euro Cup 1996. Batty, an English white football player, missed his penalty in the 1998 World Cup. Ince, who is a black player, missed his penalty in the 1998 World Cup as well. It's important to point out that Ince was the first black captain of the English national football team. This is in 1998. However, he received a lot of the same treatment as Rashford, Saka, and Sancho. When he stepped off the plane to play for Giuseppe Meazza, a professional Italian football team, Ince saw an extraordinarily derogatory phrase graffitied on a wall in Italy that was there to welcome him. So again, this is not in a vacuum with Rashford, Saka, and Sancho. This has been going on for a very long time. And past English football players had to face the same racism that they did. All right, let's get back to more of the players missing the penalties. David Beckham also missed his penalty in the 2004 Euro Cup as well, resulting in a loss. Lampard, Gerrard, and Kerrigan, all 3 of them, white football players, missed their penalty kicks in the 2006 World Cup. Young, a black football player, missed in the Euro Cup of 2012, and Cole, a black football player, missed in the Euro Cup of 2012 as well. Which brings the count now 8-7. That is 8 white football players that have missed their penalty kicks for the English national football team that have resulted in a loss, and 7 black football players playing for the English national team that have missed their penalties that have resulted in a loss as well. The question is, why, being a black player, do they face so much more scrutiny outside of the game to be only viewed as black football players and not actual football players? And think about the complexity and the prism that black athletes are always viewed through in general white spaces such as football, or what we call here in the US, soccer. To put this into perspective, the first black player to play football in the UK professionally was in 1909. Walter Tull, who played for the Tottenham Hotspurs. Now, it's important to point out that he was of Afro-Caribbean descent. He played 10 games for the national team, scored twice, and then was put to the reserves and pulled off the team. Him being pulled off of the team in 1909 resulted in him making the headlines in October of 1909. And it was possibly the first time that race was referenced in a headline football report. So when we look at the treatment of black players in football around the world, how much more are they shouldering, enduring, having to face just outside of the sport of football? So when we look at the history of black football players in England, we're looking at the history of black football players being pushed out of the sport, being limited in the sport, being ridiculed in the sport, and having to carry a weight in the sport that white football players never have had to carry. And somebody that's put it together or phrased it best to sum up this entire video as we rethink how black football players are treated, Chidozie Ubase wrote for the Harper's Bazaar and said, "When we're winning, we're English. When we're losing, we're back to black."